Married people, what is the creepiest thing your spouse has ever done?
Female story 1. All right, so here's a story for you. Let me set the scene first. I'm chilling in the living room late at night, just trying to unwind after a long day. My wife is already asleep in the bedroom. She's a notorious sleep talker, and honestly, it's mostly hilarious nonsense. Usually it's just stuff like the chickens are in the oven or bring me the purple wrench weird, but harmless. Anyway, this one night, I'm engrossed in some action movie, can't even remember which one, because what happened next completely overshadowed it. Out of nowhere, my wife, Sarah, sits bolt upright in bed. I didn't even hear her at first, but then she starts muttering something. Curious, I lower the volume on the TV and try to catch what she's saying. Now, here's the creepy part. She suddenly turns her head, locks eyes with me, mind you. Her eyes are wide open, but I can tell she's still asleep, and says in this eerie, almost robotic tone, "Those clowns won't get my ice cream," before I could even react or laugh it off. She freaking slaps me across the face.
Hard. Like, what the actual fuck, right?
So I'm just sitting there, holding my cheek, trying to process what just happened. She lies back down, closes her eyes, and is out like a light again, snoring softly. I'm like, okay, the clowns won't get her ice cream. Got it. The next morning, I bring it up over breakfast. She's pouring cereal into her bowl, looking all innocent, and I'm just staring at her like she's an alien. I tell her what she said and did, and she bursts out laughing. I said, "What?" "And I slapped you?" she asks, nearly choking on her coffee. Apparently, she has no recollection of any of it. We joke about it, and she suggests I start recording her sleep talking. So like any curious husband, I set up a voice recorder app on my phone the next few nights. Boy, did I get a treasure trove of weirdness. One night she's talking about the flying spaghetti monster, another night it's "don't forget to feed the unicorns," and then there's the gem where she sternly instructs someone, presumably me, to hide the bananas from the pirates. But the clowns and the ice cream incident remains the creepiest one. It's like her subconscious was channeling some bizarre horror movie plot. We've since had numerous laughs about it, and I even tease her whenever we see clowns on TV or in movies. Hey babe, should we hide the ice cream? However, every now and then, late at night when I'm alone in the living room, I can't help but glance towards the bedroom, half expecting her to pop up with some other bizarre sleep-talking episode. It's both funny and a little unsettling because you never really know what's going on in someone's mind when they're asleep. So yeah, that's the creepiest thing my spouse has ever done. I'm just glad it wasn't anything more sinister, like plotting my demise or something. Although, with her vivid sleep talk, who knows what kind of adventures she's having in her dreams. At least I'm not part of some creepy clown conspiracy.
Male story 2. All right, so let me tell you about the weirdest thing my wife does. It's kind of hilarious and creepy at the same time, and I swear it sounds made up, but it's 100% true. Here we go. So, my wife has this thing about trying to get a look at my butthole. Yeah, you read that right. It's not some weird kink or anything, she's just curious, I guess. The thing is, I'm really self-conscious about my butt. I mean, I'm not one of those dudes who's comfortable with just walking around without clothes all the time. So, I guess she finds it amusing to try and catch a glimpse because she knows how awkward I get about it. The first time I noticed this was a couple of years ago. I was in our bedroom, getting changed after a shower. I turned around and there she was, creeping around the corner of the bed, peeking with this ridiculous grin on her face. I was like, "What the hell are you doing?" And she just burst out laughing and ran off. I thought it was a one-time thing, but nope, it became a regular occurrence. Sometimes I'll be getting out of the shower and I'll hear this giggle. I turn around and there she is, trying to sneak a peek. It's become this weird game between us. I'm always on guard now. If I hear her coming, I'll either make a dash for it or cover up and give her the stink eye, which only makes her laugh harder. I gotta admit, it's kind of hilarious in a really weird way. It's like our own little inside joke, but it still creeps me out sometimes. Like I'll be bending over to get something from a lower drawer, and out of nowhere, I feel this presence behind me. I whip around, and there she is, pretending like she wasn't doing anything. I'm onto her though. She's never been successful in actually getting a look, which I consider a win. We've been married for over 5 years now, and I'm determined to keep the streak going. The other day, I almost got caught slipping. I was super tired, just got back from work, and was changing into my pajamas. I didn't even hear her sneaking up. Suddenly, she's there, and I had to do this awkward half-dressed ninja roll to avoid her. She nearly died laughing. I told a couple of my buddies about this over drinks one night, and they were in stitches. One of them joked that I should set up some kind of booby trap or alarm system to catch her in the act. Not a bad idea, honestly. Maybe a tripwire that sets off a loudspeaker with a recorded message of me yelling stop trying to look at my butt. Honestly, it's all in good fun. I know some people might think it's weird or whatever, but hey, every couple has their quirks, right? I figure as long as she's not actually trying to do anything sexual or crossing any serious boundaries, it's just a goofy thing that makes us laugh. Marriage is about having fun together and keeping things interesting, and she definitely keeps me on my toes. So, there you have it. The creepiest, yet oddly endearing thing my wife does. Here's to hoping I can keep my butthole a mystery for years to come. Male story 3. Oh man. Let me tell you about the time my wife got all big brother on me with that damn smart scale. So, we had been married for about 3 years, and like most people, we were trying to keep up with the whole healthy lifestyle thing. I figured I'd help out by keeping track of my weight. You know, just making sure I wasn't letting myself go too much. So, my wife, always the tech enthusiast, decides to buy this new smart scale. It's supposed to be all fancy, connect to your phone, and give you all sorts of data about your weight, body fat, and whatnot. Now, I'm not super into all this high-tech gadgetry, but hey, if it helps me keep track of my weight without having to write it down or remember, I'm all for it. So I start using the thing pretty regularly. Step on it in the morning, step on it after work, sometimes even before bed, just to see what kind of havoc dinner had wreaked on me. What I didn't know was that this sneaky little device was sending all my weight data directly to my wife's phone. And here's where it gets a bit creepy. Instead of just telling me, hey, by the way, our scale is sending your weight to my phone, she decides to keep it to herself for a while. I mean, for months. So there I am, blissfully unaware that my daily weight fluctuations are being monitored and analyzed. I'd have days where I'd look at myself in the mirror and think, damn, I'm looking good today, and other days where I'd curse myself for eating that extra slice of pizza. All the while, she's got a front row seat to my weight roller coaster. Then one day, out of the blue, she casually asks me, hey, have you noticed your weight changing much lately? I'm thinking, yeah, I guess a little. Why she gives me this knowing smile and says, oh, just curious. You seem to be fluctuating a bit. Now, I'm starting to get a bit suspicious. How the hell does she know about my weight fluctuations? So I press her a bit, and she finally comes clean. Well, you know that smart scale I bought. It's been sending your weight to my phone every time you use it at first. I thought she was joking. Who does that, right? But then she shows me her phone, and sure enough, there's my weight history in all its fluctuating glory. I didn't know whether to be pissed off or impressed by her little surveillance operation. I mean, part of me felt like she was spying on me, but another part was like, wow, she really cares about my health. I ended up laughing about it, but I made sure to give her a hard time for not telling me sooner. From then on, every time I stepped on that scale, I'd strike a pose or make a goofy face, knowing she'd get a kick out of it when she checked the app. It became a running joke between us. So yeah, that's my story. A bit creepy, but also kind of sweet in a weird way. Just goes to show you, marriage is full of surprises, and sometimes those surprises come in the form of a high-tech scale keeping tabs on your love handles. Female story 4. Oh man, let me tell you about the creepiest thing my husband has ever done. Buckle up, cause it's a weird one. So we've been married for about 8 years now, and it all started early in our relationship. We were just sitting on the couch one night, watching some random show on Netflix. Out of nowhere, he leans over and whispers in my ear, bagel, just like that. No context, no explanation, just bagel. At first, I thought he was just being goofy or trying to be cute. I laughed it off and went back to watching our show. But then, he did it again the next night. And the night after that. And each time, he would get a little closer, a little more intense. Imagine Hannibal Lecter, but instead of saying something terrifying, he's just whispering bagel in the creepiest way possible. It's both hilarious and spine-chilling at the same time. I finally asked him what the heck he was doing, and he just grinned like a Cheshire cat and said, it's just a fun word to say, right? Fun for him maybe, but for me, it was like living in a low-budget horror movie. He'd catch me off guard, leaning in when I was cooking, folding laundry, or just brushing my teeth. Bagel every time I jump a mile. After a while, I sort of got used to it. I mean, it was weird, but it was his weird, you know? But then he took it to a whole new level. One day, I'm at the park with our kids, and my toddler comes running up to me, all excited. He tugs on my sleeve, gets real close to my ear, and whispers, "Balloon." I was so confused. I looked at him and asked, "What was that, sweetie?" And he giggled and said, "Daddy told me to say bagel, but I like balloon better." And that's when it hit me. This man had trained our children to carry on his creepy whisper legacy. My older one caught on pretty quickly and thought it was the funniest thing ever. They'd sneak up on me, giggling like little demons, and whisper random words because they couldn't quite remember bagel, donut, puppy, rainbow, you name it. They whispered it. Now, this happens sporadically. Weeks will go by with nothing, and I'll start to let my guard down. Then, out of the blue, I'll be loading the dishwasher and hear a tiny voice behind me whisper, "Cucumber." It still catches me off guard every damn time. Honestly, it's become a weirdly endearing part of our family dynamic. Like, it's creepy as hell, don't get me wrong, but it's also kind of our thing now. Friends who know about it think it's hilarious and often try to get in on the action, but no one can do it quite like my husband or our kids. So yeah, that's the creepiest thing my spouse has ever done. Turning an innocent word into a tool for low-level psychological warfare and roping our kids into it. Marriage, man. It's a trip. Male story 5, all right, why all? Strap in for this one, cause it's one of the freakiest things that's ever happened to me. So I was lying in bed one night, probably around 2 a.m., dead asleep in our cozy little house in the middle of nowhere, Oregon. You know, where the trees outnumber the people and the silence can be eerie as hell. Anyway, I wake up to this weird knocking sound. My first thought is, ugh, is the cat doing something stupid again? But then I realize, we don't even have a cat. I roll over to wake my girlfriend, who's now my wife, and guess what? She's not there. The spot beside me is cold. The room is pitch black, and my heart starts pounding. The knocking continues, so I listen carefully, trying to pinpoint where it's coming from. I call out her name, Jess, no answer. The entire house is dark, not a single light on, and all I can think is, where the hell did she go? Now, let me paint the scene a bit more. We live out in the boonies, right? Our closest neighbor is probably a good mile away. The nights are usually dead silent, except for the occasional owl hooting or the wind rustling the trees. So hearing knocking in the middle of the night is more than just unsettling, it's downright creepy. Finally, I muster up the courage to get out of bed. I grab my phone for a flashlight and start tiptoeing through the house. I call her name again, Jess, still nothing. As I creep through the hallway, the knocking stops. I pause, listening. It's dead silent now. My brain is racing, thinking of all the horror movies I've ever seen. I reach the kitchen, and that's when I hear it again, the knocking. But this time, it's coming from the pantry. My heart is about to explode at this point. I mean, who or what could be in there? I call her name one more time, and there's no response, just the relentless knocking. I stand there, frozen, staring at the pantry door, debating if I should open it or just bolt out of the house and never look back. After what feels like an eternity, I decide to man up and open the door. And there she is, Jess, completely without clothes, walking into the wall over and over again like a damn zombie. It was the first time I ever saw her sleepwalking, and let me tell you, it was the freakiest thing ever. She's just repeatedly walking into the wall, totally unaware of her surroundings. I gently grab her shoulders and guide her back to bed. She doesn't say a word, doesn't even seem to notice me. I tuck her in, and she goes right back to sleep like nothing happened. I'm lying there wide awake, heart still racing, thinking, what the actual fuck just happened? The next morning, she has no memory of it. I tell her everything, and she laughs it off, saying she used to sleepwalk as a kid. But since then, it's happened quite a few times, each episode stranger than the last. Once, I found her trying to climb out a window. Another time, she was rearranging the furniture in the living room in her sleep. It's weird, man. Living with a sleepwalker keeps you on your toes, but that first time in the pantry, that still gives me chills. So yeah, married life has its creepy moments, and this one takes the cake for me. Male story 6, oh man, I got a story for you all that still gives me the creeps. So my spouse, let's call her Amy, has always had this quirky sense of humor. Like she's the kind of person who would leave fake spiders in your shoes just to hear you scream in the morning. But this one time, she took it to a whole new level. One night, I came home super late from work, absolutely exhausted. Amy was already asleep, or at least I thought she was. I dragged myself to bed, barely bothering to brush my teeth. The minute my head hit the pillow, I was out cold. Now, I've always had a pretty deep sleep, and I usually don't wake up for anything. But this particular night, I had the most bizarre, surreal dreams. I was wandering through my childhood home, which was already strange because I hadn't thought about that place in years. Every room I entered was filled with Nicolas Cage memorabilia. And I'm not talking about regular movie posters or DVDs. There were these weird, almost sacred-looking altars with Cage's face plastered everywhere. It was like some kind of Nicolas Cage cult had taken over my old house. I woke up in a cold sweat, heart pounding, and that's when I saw it. Right there on the dresser opposite our bed was an altar. Not just any altar, but one entirely dedicated to Nicolas Cage, my childhood toys Transformers, GI. Joe's, even my old teddy bear were all arranged in a circle, surrounding a framed photo of Cage. The dude's face was staring right at me, with that intense, unsettling gaze he's so famous for. I swear I nearly had a heart attack. I shook Amy awake, my voice cracking. What the hell is this? Amy groggily opened her eyes, took one look at the altar, and burst out laughing. She laughed so hard she snorted, which only made her laugh even more. I was not amused. Why would you do this? I asked, still trying to calm my racing heart. She finally caught her breath and said, "You remember how we watched that Nick Cage marathon last week? Well, I noticed how freaked out you got during Vampire's Kiss and thought it would be funny to give you a little scare." A little scare, I repeated, incredulous. You made a damn shrine. At 2 a.m., it's not funny, it's terrifying. Amy kept giggling, clearly proud of her handiwork. She got up, walked over to the altar, and started dismantling it. All right, I'll clean it up. But you gotta admit, it was a good one. As she took down the photo and put my toys back where they belonged, I couldn't help but chuckle a little. It was so over the top and ridiculous. But that's Amy for you, always finding new ways to keep things interesting. The next day, I found a new respect for Nick Cage. The man had haunted my dreams and invaded my childhood memories, all thanks to my wife's twisted sense of humor. We still laugh about it now and then, but I swear, every time I see Nick Cage in a movie, I get this weird shiver down my spine. So yeah, love does take mysterious forms. And sometimes those forms are creepy, life-size altars dedicated to Nicolas Cage, created by your mischievous spouse in the dead of night. I guess that's what keeps our marriage exciting, never knowing when you'll wake up to Nick Cage watching over you. Female story 7. Oh man. Let me tell you about this one night that was so bizarre it still gives me the creeps just thinking about it. My husband, bless his heart, is generally a pretty normal guy. We've been married for about 8 years now, and while we've had our fair share of weird moments, this one definitely takes the cake. So, it was a Friday night, and he had one of those long, stressful days at work. You know, the kind where everything that could go wrong did go wrong. Anyway, he decides to unwind with a few drinks, which is pretty normal for him on rough days. But this night, he went a bit overboard. I'm talking, he polished off a whole bottle of whiskey by himself. I was already in bed, trying to catch up on some Netflix, when I heard him slurring some words in the living room. I figured he'd just pass out on the couch and we'd laugh about it in the morning. Sometime around midnight, I hear him talking. Not unusual since he sometimes talks in his sleep, but this time, it's different. He's not mumbling gibberish, he's actually having a full-on conversation. Curious, I get up and go check on him. There he is, standing in the middle of the living room, talking to our imaginary house guest. But here's the kicker, he's completely asleep. His eyes are open, and he's speaking normally, but there's no way he's awake. Just when I think it can't get any weirder, he says, "Excuse me for a second. I need to go to the bathroom," and he stands up. I watch him walk over to the wall, unzip his pants, and start peeing right there in the living room. I was stunned. Like completely frozen in disbelief. He's just leaning against the wall like it's a urinal, having a casual chat with our imaginary friend, and peeing on our hardwood floor. I didn't even know what to do. I was torn between waking him up or just letting him finish so I wouldn't end up wearing his piss. I ended up doing the worst thing possible, I just stood there, mouth agape, watching this horror unfold. Thank God we didn't have carpet, or that would have been a whole other disaster. After what felt like an eternity, he finishes, zips up, and goes back to the couch as if nothing happened. I just stood there in shock. Once I snapped out of it, I grabbed some towels and started cleaning up, trying not to gag. The whole time I was just thinking, what the hell just happened? The next morning, he wakes up with a massive hangover, and I tell him what he did. At first, he didn't believe me, but the evidence was still there, and he was mortified. We laughed about it, but it was definitely a wake-up call for him. We decided to go dry for a while after that. It's been a few years since then, and every now and then we'll bring it up and laugh, but deep down, it still gives me the creeps. I mean, sleepwalking and sleep talking are one thing, but sleep peeing? That's a whole new level of weird. Anyway, marriage is full of surprises, some pleasant, some, well, you get the idea. Male story 8. All right, so here's my crazy story. Buckle up, folks. Before my wife and I started dating, she did something that's straight out of a creepy rom-com. We've been together for 6 years now, married for 2, and this story still gets brought up at parties because it's just too wild not to share. So, picture this, it's a random Wednesday night, and I'm dead asleep, probably dreaming about tacos or something. Suddenly, my phone starts ringing at 1 a.m. I groggily pick up, and it's her, let's call her Sarah. At this point, Sarah and I were just friends. We worked together, had lunch a few times, but nothing more than that. She tells me she's out for a walk and found a lost dog on my street. Now, I have this massive soft spot for stray animals. Like I've been known to pull over on the highway to rescue a turtle. Sarah knew this because I never shut up about it at work. So, there I am, half asleep, and she's like, hey, I found this poor dog, and I know you love animals. Can you help? Of course, I spring out of bed, throw on some clothes, and rush outside. There she is, standing under the streetlight, looking all innocent and concerned. She tells me the dog just ran off into the night. Now, I didn't think much of it at the time. I'm a trusting guy, and was more worried about this supposed lost dog. We spent the next 2 hours wandering around the neighborhood, calling out for this phantom dog. By 3 a.m., we're exhausted, and she suggests we call it a night. I agree, but something feels off. I mean, how did she just happen to find a dog on my street in the middle of the night? And why was she walking around here anyway? I chalked it up to coincidence and went back to bed. Fast forward a few months, and we're dating. One night, after a few glasses of wine, Sarah confesses. There was never a dog. She made the whole thing up just to have an excuse to see me. Apparently, she had a bit of a crush on me and wanted to get my attention. At first, I was like, what the hell, Sarah? That's some next-level stalker stuff, but then I realized it was kind of endearing in a super weird way. I mean, she knew exactly how to get me to come outside and spend time with her. And let's be honest, it worked. We ended up bonding that night, and it set the stage for our relationship. Now, every time we see a stray dog, she jokes about how it might be another lost dog situation. Our friends love this story. They always tease me about being so gullible and joke that I should be grateful she went through all that trouble just to hang out with me. So yeah, my wife basically stalked me before we started dating. But hey, it led to something great. Sometimes you just have to embrace the weird and creepy, I guess. And Sarah? She swears she's not a stalker, just a determined romantic.